The drawer false fronts have been made from the same kitchen benchtop material as the tops for all the other projects. The benchtop material is way too thick, so I resawed it on the bandsaw to about 10mm thick. Last time you saw me resaw this material on my bandsaw, I had big issues, but it looks like it was just a tensioning issue, as this time it really flew through the material. Mum didn't want any hardware on her drawers and instead wanted to go with a clean look with 30-degree angles on the false fronts so you could get your finger under or over. A digital angle gauge was perfect to dial in the exact angle, although in this case it really didn't matter because it wasn't mating up with another surface, so close enough was actually good enough. Like with my garage drawers, the boxes are made out of 12mm Maxio plywood, a poplar plywood with a flower ash veneer. It's totally similar to Tassie oak, kind of. Making drawers isn't particularly hard, but it is tedious. There are a lot of repeat cuts. And then without a dado stack, of which I've got one on order, there is a lot of repeat nudging over the fence just that tiny little bit. As with my garage drawers, this time I went with a locking rabbet joint, which is mechanically strong enough and makes glue-ups pretty easy as everything locks together. The groove for the plywood base is cut on all the pieces, then a rabbet is cut into the side pieces. Finally, a tenon is cut on the fronts that go into that rabbet. Glue up for these drawers is pretty simple, and the two pipe clamps were really there just to raise it up off the workbench and hold it in place while I tacked a few small brads in. The brads just meant that I didn't have to get all my clamps off the rack and could glue up other items at the same time. I glued each side panel up separately. This made the overall assembly much less stressful as I wasn't racing against the clock. Luckily my wife was around to help with the final glue up. Lots of hardwood and those big, heavy MDF veneered panels meant that this was a heavy drawer unit before you added the drawers or the clamps. After everything was dry, I could add the drawer runners onto the drawers. This is pretty easy using a spacer block to hold them in position. Because of the false fronts, I had to add a rail for the drawer slides to attach up to, otherwise it would have been inset too far. This was pretty fiddly to get it all lined up just right. If you know of any better ways to do something like this, please let me know, as 2 of the future projects for Mum will involve the same style drawers. Once the slides were mounted to the cabinet, I could put the drawer in and attach the first false front. While it's not my cup of tea for styling, the drawers work really well and it's starting to come together now. For sanding, I always use a HB pencil or softer to mark the surface. When the pencil marks are gone from the entire board, I know it's time to change grits. I like to clean everything up between grits with compressed air to make sure there is no sanding dust left behind. There were 1 or 2 voids in the top, so I mixed up some clear epoxy and filled them in. I used some blue painter's tape to create a bit of a barrier. Like with the other projects on the touch surfaces of the drawer, I wanted to make sure the grain was filled. I actually had someone from Timbermate contact me and say I was doing a great job, and that was really reassuring to know that I was actually using the product correctly. However, I'm not sure if Timbermate officially endorsed using a kitchen stick mixer to blend it all together. It's okay though, the wife actually brought it out to me so I could mix it easier. I did not have to sleep on the couch that night. A hairdryer also works exceptionally well at speeding up the drying process of Timbermate. For the finish, it's the same oil-based Minwax satin poly. I'm currently experimenting with a Wagner HVLP turbine system and getting pretty good results from that. So the dresser or set of drawers or whatever you want to call it is done. Probably we'll take off the top and do another coat or two of wipe-on poly. That's just attached with the same brackets as I used on the hall table and dining table, which are just those tabletop fasteners. Mum's already filled it up with stationery and all the things that she's going to put in here. The drawers work fairly well. I was a bit surprised that these hardware-less system, whatever you want to call it, works. Personally, I think the drawer fronts or the face frame should have been a different timbered so that there was a little bit more of a contrast visually, but Mum's quite happy with it, and it's really something that goes in the corner and is out of the way, so it doesn't really matter if it's a little bit bland because that's sort of the idea. Thanks for watching.